Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So I recently received a request from someone to give some tips and suggestions for those that have stomach issues like acid reflux or GERD or GERD, also heartburn and indigestion, things like that, what to do. So I'm going to first give some lifestyle tips and suggestions, and then at the end I'll also give some dietary recommendations or things that people can experiment with taking certain foods or ingredients out of their diet. So the first suggestion that I have for anyone that has any kind of issue with indigestion or acid reflux or heartburn or GERD, things like that, is one thing that I've seen over and over again with a lot of my coaching clients, because as most people know, I'm a health coach. I work with people with their health and their diet, and one thing that I've seen over and over again with anyone that has any kind of indigestion or GERD or any kind of heartburn or acid reflux issue is that usually they also have constipation. The two things go hand in hand, and how I see things with any kind of digestive issue is that the whole thing with our digestive system, it's kind of like a pipe. It's kind of like a pipe in your bathroom, connected to your bathroom sink or your toilet, is that there's an entry and then there's an exit. And if the pipe in any area is clogged up or is not functioning properly, then things are going to start getting backed up and things are going to start coming back up. And that's how I see our digestive system, is that our mouth is the opening of that pipe, and then down at our bum is where things exit. And if that pipe or our digestive system is clogged up in any way, and that's usually in the lower part of our digestion, is that everything's going to eventually start coming up. And that's what I see with a lot of people that have issues with acid reflux or indigestion or heartburn, things like that, is that they're not eliminating food properly. They're not eliminating the waste out of their body fast enough that everything sort of starts getting backed up. And then what ends up happening is that their upper digestive system in their stomach, is that the acid in the food starts coming up. It starts weakening the muscles. And instead of the muscles keeping the food and the stomach acid down, it's coming back up because it's not being able to exit properly at the bottom. So one thing that I've noticed, and one thing that I've seen over and over again, is that once someone actually starts taking care of the issue of constipation first, they're able to naturally get rid of the GERD, the GERD, or the acid reflux, or the heartburn, all of that. It's almost like the two things are hand in hand, and the more that they try to sort of fix the acid reflux issue, if they don't fix the constipation, they're never going to get rid of the acid reflux issue. So the first thing that I suggest to anyone is that ask themselves, if they have an issue with stomach acid and they have a chronic issue of acid reflux and things like that, they should be asking themselves, do they also have an issue with constipation? And if they do, then they need to sort the constipation out first. Now, if someone doesn't have an issue with constipation, or even though they've been able to reverse the constipation, they're still having GERD or acid reflux and heartburn, my suggestion is that you also need to look into what's going on with your weight. Okay, because that's another thing that goes hand in hand with any kind of stomach issue, is that if someone is overweight or they're carrying a lot of weight in their midsection, like in their belly, in their stomach, in their abdomen area, is that the more weight you're carrying in there, the more that things start getting sort of tight. And the more that weight kind of presses or pushes against your organs and sort of makes everything kind of cluttered inside, and there's not enough space for things to have room to function. And so a lot of times when people actually lose a little bit of weight, that also helps with the acid reflux, because it just allows your organs a little bit more room to be functioning and working properly, instead of being squeezed and pushed in areas of your midsection. And therefore things are not being pushed up. There's less pressure within your stomach area. So that's another thing. If you're overweight, work on losing the weight. The next suggestion I have too is your breathing. And this is a big one, is that a lot of times acid reflux, GERD, heartburn, all of that is connected to stress. And a lot of it comes down to how someone is breathing. If they're stressed or anxious or nervous all the time, they're more likely to be having more shallow or shorter breathing, like chest breathing, as opposed to breathing out of their stomach and having deep breathing. If you're always sort of panting or having really short breaths, you're also going to be affecting your digestion and especially the stomach muscles and having the stomach acid come back up. So those are 3 things that you can do with sort of your body and your lifestyle. Now, there's a few other suggestions I have having to do with how you're eating and also lying down, sleeping, and times that you're eating in relation to other activities that you're doing in your daily life. So one thing with people that do have stomach acid issues, that some people do very well having smaller meals frequently throughout the day, whereas other people, they do better having full meals, and these meals being spaced out with at least 4 hours in between each meal. So if someone, I would suggest pretty much doing an experiment to see, like if you have acid reflux issue and you don't have constipation and you don't have a weight issue and you're breathing very well and you're not under a lot of stress, then my next step you would do is to look at how you're eating. Are you eating 3 big meals a day or 2 big meals a day, or are you kind of snacking throughout the day? And if you're one of these people that sort of has small meals every 2 hours or every 3 hours, then I would suggest aiming to have more like 2 or 3 large meals throughout the day, and having a minimum of 4 hours in between those meals to allow everything to fully digest. For those that have big meals throughout the day and they're still having acid reflux issues, then I suggest having smaller meals and more frequently, and see how that goes. Now, the one thing is that if you're an active person and you exercise, I suggest always exercising on an empty stomach, or waiting at least an hour and a half, even 2 hours until you exercise. The worst thing you can do is eat and then go and exercise, especially doing cardiovascular activity or any kind of activity where you're bending down, because that's just going to allow everything to come up, right? So you really want to either exercise first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, or if you're exercising in the afternoon or in the evening, to wait a few hours after you've had your last meal. Also with sleep, same thing. The last thing you want to do when you have any kind of stomach acid issues, you don't want to eat a meal and then go to sleep, or even lie down, like lying down on the couch watching TV. You want to make sure that after you've had your meal, that you're relaxed, first of all, after your meal, and that you're sitting up. That even if you're sitting down, or even if you're kind of lying down on the couch, you don't want to be lying down flat. You want to be propped up, and the best position would be either to be standing or sitting up, where your upper half of your body is erect, it's upward. You don't want to be lying down, because then the stomach acid comes up. So do your best not to be lying down unless you're going to sleep. And if you're going to sleep, you want to make sure you're going to sleep on an empty stomach, and that you have your dinner and your evening snack as early as possible. The earlier, the better. Sometimes some people do experience having stomach acid issues where they go to sleep on an empty stomach. And so if that's the case, where you find whenever you have an empty stomach, that's when your body starts producing a lot of stomach acid, then have a little bit of a snack, but not a full-on meal before you go to bed, because it will, later on in the middle of the evening, it'll start coming up, whether you experience it right when you lie down or later on. A lot of times the food does come up. So if you have something that's very plain right before you go to bed to keep the stomach acid down, you can try that. Now, when it comes down to your actual diet, one thing that I recommend to anyone that has any kind of acid reflux or indigestion issue or GERD is take at least 2 weeks to a month without any type of flour, any type of doughy food. Okay, this is one thing that I strongly recommend, because I see this a lot too, is that for some reason food that's made out of flour, especially bread or pasta or anything made out of flour, whether it's a white flour or a wholemeal flour, I find it causes acid reflux for a lot of people. A lot of people have a hard time digesting doughy food, and especially foods that have a thick dough, kind of like bagels or pizza dough or breads, things like that. And sometimes the heavier the bread, the worse it is. So this is one thing that I strongly suggest, is do the experiment. Do 2 weeks, do a month. Absolutely no bread, no pasta, nothing made out of wheat or any other grain, and see how that goes. A lot of times, just by eliminating that, a lot of people have great results with it. Also, too, most people know to stay away from coffee or chocolate or anything caffeinated, anything with bubbles in it, like soda water or mineral water, things like that, soda. I would stay away from those kind of things. I also suggest, too, is staying away from anything that's made with heated oils and heated fats. So it's not only deep fried foods, but I'd suggest staying away from any heated cheeses. Okay, so nothing with melted cheese, no grilled cheese sandwich, no pizza. A lot of times people blame maybe the tomato sauce that's on the pizza, but I would actually think it's more the heated cheese. And so any heated fats. I find a lot of people do fine eating regular hard cheese that's not been heated up, it's just cold, and they have no issue with it. But the moment they kind of slice it up and make a grilled cheese sandwich out of it, they're having issues. And it could very well be the bread or the combination of the two. But I find in general, heated cheeses, heated fats, heated oils are a big issue for people that have acid reflux. And so when it comes down to like citrus or tomato based things, I don't find it that to be as much of an issue as it is the other things that people eat the tomato based foods with. Okay, so a lot of times people say, oh, you got to stay away from tomatoes, and I've never really heard people have a acid reflux reaction to having a salad as much as they have a reaction to having pasta with the tomato sauce or pizza with the tomato sauce. And honestly, I feel it's more having to do with the pasta or the pizza. It has to do with the flour-based food or the hot cheeses, more so than the tomato stuff. So I would focus more on taking a break from the hot oils, the hot fats, the hot cheeses, stay away from the doughy, flour-based foods, and see how that goes before cutting out tomatoes and stuff like that. One thing I do also recommend is eating a lot of green leafy vegetables. That will help kind of neutralize things in your system and sort of keep the stomach acid in check. When it comes down to, some people try and have apple cider vinegar, they drink it. I'm a little bit skeptic about that. I'm also just weary about ingesting so much vinegar, especially through the mouth, where it could, if someone very well has kind of any issue with stomach acid issue, that could actually be affecting the enamel on their teeth, and then by drinking apple cider vinegar, that too will affect the enamel on your teeth. So my suggestion is don't go in that direction of drinking vinegars. If you want to put vinegar on your salad, that's fine. It's a very small amount. It's not going to erode the enamel on your teeth. But to be drinking that every day, I wouldn't be doing that, especially if you have stomach acid issues where stomach acid's already coming up. It's in your breath, and that very well could be affecting your teeth. Okay, so those are pretty much my suggestions. And the biggest thing too is keeping stress down. You know, I think a lot of times people don't realize how much what you're thinking and what you're feeling all day, how that affects your body and the health of your body and your digestive system and everything. And so there is a huge connection between acid reflux and stress, acid reflux and worry, all of that, you know. So really do your best to do activities every day that is releasing stress and tension, and figuring out ways to not be holding that stuff in, but to be finding more balance in your daily life. All right, so those are my tips and suggestions, and as I can also too let you know that I am a coach, and if you do need more help and you need more personalized assistance, I can definitely help. And you can go to my website at radiantcentral.com, click on coaching, and there's more information on the coaching programs that I offer. All right, so have a super fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.